What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the WMA podcast. My name is Jay Kane, and today we are joined by Hannah Moore. Hannah holds the CFP designation and is a financial planner and educator for Guiding Wealth. Hannah created a virtual externship for 2,000 financial planners while also creating content for her own blog. Her passion is working on the client-facing side of the industry and helping new financial planners. I hope everyone enjoys. Hannah, thank you so much for joining the podcast. We're very happy to have you.
Yes, well, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Absolutely. So could you kind of start off just by telling everyone a little bit about yourself, your background, and why you wanted to get into financial planning? And, was it always this route that you wanted to take?
Yeah, well, I can definitively say that I had no idea financial planning existed as a career. I was always interested in personal finance when I was growing up. Even just in high school, I loved listening to the radio shows about personal finance. I got to college, I wanted to do nonprofit management, and then took a financial planning class just on a whim. And in that class, I just did really, really well. And so the professor pulled me aside one day and was like, "Hey, you should consider this as a major." And so I said, okay. I had no idea. To give you context, when I was growing up, my dad worked at Walmart and my mom stayed home with me and my four brothers. So it's just a very different world. And so I changed my major to financial planning, got an internship, and started to kind of get a taste of what this was like, and then got a job right out of college. And and it was working for a woman who was a financial planner. And so that's really kind of how I got into where I am today, or kind of that interest into financial planning.
Absolutely. It's very cool and unique. So kind of going off that, could you talk about your different designations that you have? So I see that you're a CFP and a certified financial transitions designation. So could you kind of talk about what those are about?
Yeah, absolutely. So after I graduated, I started with this first job. I was in study mode. So I just kept getting kept doing the testing. So I took my Series 7 next, and then I went to my Series 65 after that. And then I sat for my CFP exam. And so I just did those one right after the other because I was in study mode. It would be a lot harder to go back and do those now. And so I got the CFP designation. It really is table stakes now for becoming a financial planner. So I did that. So part of my story is I was 22. I started working for a woman. She was 68. 4 years later, I ended up buying her practice. And so after I bought her practice, I'm a 26-year-old, don't really know which way is up. And I really wanted to focus on becoming a better financial planner of how do I actually engage with clients? How do I sit across the table from them? And so Susan Bradley it was a Sudden Money Institute. Now it's a Financial Transitionist Institute. And so it was a training on basically how to help clients in transitions. Now, the irony is almost everybody's always in some transition, right? So we ended up, it's really applicable to a lot of different places, but I ended up going through that training and getting that designation really as a way because I was so young when I was working solely working with these clients, I really wanted to be able to provide the best service to them. And so that's why I pursued that, the CEFT, Certified Financial Transitionist.
That's awesome. Very impressive. Buying a practice at 26. Yeah. I couldn't even imagine doing that right now. That is unreal, and something also very uncommon that, you don't see a whole lot. So that's very awesome.
Yeah. So thank you. No, it was definitely thrown in on the deep end. It was a sink or swim type moment for me in my life, and we swam. So it worked out.
Very cool. So kind of branching off from that in a different direction. So obviously you bought your practice, you said at 26, you got all these, tests out of the way, and now you're kind of transitioning to, marketing yourself and creating the content that you have for people. So could you kind of speak about your creations with the blog, the externship that you got going, the budgeting blocks, and kind of why you wanted to do that?
Absolutely. So I ended up buying the practice. So I was 26. A couple of years later, I ended up leaving the broker dealer where I was at. I had really between 250 and 300 clients. I took my top kind of tier of clients and started an RIA practice. And in that transition, there was a seminar series I went to at my local FPA chapter. Shout out to FPA DFW. And there was a seminar series called You're a Financial Planner, Now What? And I would go to the seminar series. I really say it's where I learned how to do financial planning. And I would come home and I would tell my husband, I was like, this is some of the best content. Like, I am learning so much here. And there's like 5 people showing up. I don't understand why there's not more people. And my husband, whose degree was film and digital media, it was just like, well, why don't you put that on the internet? And I was like, yeah, I don't know how to do any of that. He's like, well, I do. So anyway, in this transition, so moving from all of these clients to a much smaller client base, I had a lot of time on my hands. And I was married to the expertise. And so anyway, we started, so the people who were running the seminar series ended up retiring, if you will. And so we started this. And so we started the podcast. We started the You're a Financial Planner, Now What podcast. And we, just started interviewing people, and it just started to take off from there. And really, we did that because it's what I needed when I started out as a financial planner. So we did that for a while. We just started getting so many people reaching out to us, which was just wonderful, but it was really hard to do because this was kind of just our giving back. And there was just so much need and so much potential that was here. So long story short, we ended up partnering with FPA National, and we're consulting with them to help them build out their new planner initiatives. And so in that, we created the FPA Activate Facebook group, which we still manage and run. So it's a group of several thousand financial planners. So if you are on Facebook, it is like, definitely go there. You don't have to like ask questions, but it's really great. If you want to ask questions, we absolutely welcome it. But it's a great place just to see what are the conversations that financial planners are having today. So even if you just go there and you're a lurker like that, there's just so much value there as well. And so in that, that's kind of where a lot of our content creation started. So last year, the pandemic hit, and I'm consulting with FPA at this point, and we're just like, okay, there are so many needs right now out here with financial planning. What can we do to help? Who are the people that need help the most? And there were so many needs. And the group that we kept going back to were these students. And we kept hearing, it started trickling in where students were like, we're losing our internships. So what do we do? Professors started to reach out, and they were just like, our students are losing their internships. We don't know what to do. And so we started seeing this problem. And this was like, we started seeing this problem. And we were just like, okay, well, what can we do? And we had the idea of like, okay, can we pair our member firms with the students? But then we realized that our member firms are losing their internships too, because nobody knew what to do, right? Nobody was immune from that. And so what we did is we did a couple focus groups with students, and we said, what is it that you value most about your internship experience? And so what we very quickly realized, and we knew this intuitively, that you can never replace that one-on-one in-depth internship experience, right? You can't replace that walking into an office, you're seeing the receptionist, having those conversations with people. But we said, what about everything else? What if we could recreate an internship-like experience online and in a way that scales? And so we did that. It was kind of wild from the day we decided that, yes, we are going to do it, to the day that the Friday we ended the content, it was 3 months and a week. And so what we ended up doing is we came up with this idea of an externship. So we partnered with some of the largest financial planning technology firms, so we partnered with eMoney. So really one of the largest, I think they're the largest financial planning software. We partnered with TD Ameritrade and with Morningstar. So all the students got access to eMoney, Morningstar, and TD's Education Center. And so what we did is we tapped into the FPA network. And so every week we are bringing 3 experts in that would show how they did financial planning at their firm. So for investments, we would bring in 3 different people who approached it differently, who served different types of clients. And we would say, okay, how do you do financial planning? What does this look like? And they would show us that, they would share their deliverables. And then what we would do is we would give the students assignments based on those. So we would say, hey, like you guys are going to be doing the work as if you were in an internship, but for a lot of different firms. And so we did that. We brought them back for live office hours. We did a lot of software training, really helping students become get a comfort level in these softwares, bringing in lots of different speakers to show, not just what a topic looks like in a firm, but how do firms approach financial planning? How does that look different? And so we did that for 8 weeks. We told everybody that it was 20 hours of work a week, and it was 20 hours of work a week, if not more. So we really wanted to make this a very rigorous program. And what we heard was just overwhelmingly positive. People were just so grateful for this opportunity to be able to see this. But what it really meant, so there was just a lot of, so they were able to see what financial planning looked like. In these focus groups we did with students, the number one thing we heard was, I want to know if this is a career for me, and I want to know what career path I should follow. And we were able to do that because you didn't just get to see how one office did it. You got to see how many offices did it. You got to see what area of financial planning you wanted to do. And so there's just a lot of really cool things that we could do because it wasn't just, you weren't just going into one office, you were going into many different offices. So that's really how the externship started. So that was last year. So this year we did it again, and we opened registration. So people had an idea of what we were doing before. I'm pretty sure nobody had any idea of what we were doing last year, maybe us included a bit. And so anyway, yeah, this year we had 940 different students register for the externship. We were in over 100 different 150 universities with undergrad students. So really a wide reach. And, there's just so many cool things about the externship, but one of my favorite is that it provided an opportunity for people to get to see financial planning who wouldn't have been able to do it. You're not having to commit the years and years of education time, of the thousands of dollars it costs to get that education before you can even get into the room. Like, it is allowing people to just get a taste of it and see if this is something that they want to pursue. So that's a little bit of how the externship came about. And I'm happy, I can keep going, but
No, that was great. And first of all, I just wanted to say that you're a hero for starting the externship. And I think that a lot of people trying to get jobs think, oh, I need this internship. I need this internship. But, externships, like you said, they answer the question of, is this really what I want to do? What area do I want to go into? So that's very beneficial to, answer that question. And that's what internships and externships are for. So that's great.
Really what we've heard from students over and over again is that what they got out of this externship is they saw what all they were learning in classroom. How does it actually apply into the real world? Like, that was one of the really big values of that externship, is that you get to see, what is this application? What does this look like? So we're not necessarily teaching, the 5 steps to a Roth conversion or the 9 different ways to do it. It's, we're showing like, this is one way to do it. It really takes the book knowledge and puts it into practice. So one of the things that we did this externship that was new from last year was we brought in a real client meeting. So we took a camera into some meetings that I had with John and Diana, or their names, and let the externs actually get to sit in on these meetings. And so it was a really big piece of what of the externship this year. And so if you're okay with me talking about it, I'd love to tell you kind of what we're working on now.
Absolutely. Yeah, that'd be great.
So what we're doing now is we realize that this is really what the value that people want is. They want to be able to see what client meetings look like. There's so much training on the technical knowledge of, that's what your CFP program is about, right? It's teaching the technical side of financial planning. It's teaching the theory of what this looks like. There's also a ton of training once you get out into the space on sales. How do you find clients? Tons of people out there. There's so many resources for that. There's very few resources on how to be a great financial planner. How do we develop our skill sets, our competencies on actually providing this great experience for our clients? And so what we did is we have a monthly program called Amplified Planning Core, where it is 1 meeting a month, where you get to watch me in a meeting. You get to see what I do well, what I don't do well. And I tell you guys all of it. You guys literally see it all. We've had times when this first client that we're showing you is Drew. And I'm not to give out spoilers for it, but there's a point where he walks in, the first thing out of his mouth basically ruins the entire financial plan that we've been working on. But that's real life, right? Like, how do you teach that thing? So we really wanted to show you, what does financial planning actually look like in practice? And so every month you're going to get a client meeting, but we're going to let you guys be like my associate financial planner. So you'll be able to do the work as if you were in my office. So you guys are going to be doing research for it. You'll be looking at the client documents, like working through those client documents. You'll be taking the meeting notes. And so you really get that hands-on approach to what it's actually like to be in a meeting in an office. And great part is you get 20 hours of experience credit, or 20 experience hours for the CFP board. So you can start building some of your experience hours towards getting your CFP designation as well. So definitely check that out with Amplified Planning Core. We're really, really excited to be able to offer that.
Yeah, I was just going to restate that. Actually, that sounds like an unreal resource. And, just speaking from my experience, just sitting in on those client meetings has been my favorite part of the internship, and that it's unreal that you guys offer that. So again, that's Amplified Planning, great resource, and everyone should definitely check it out.
Yep. So amplifiedplanning.com, and then /core will be, but if you just go to the website, you'll be able to find it. That's what we heard over and over from new students. It's like, they need the reps. You need the reps of seeing what clients are like. Absolutely. And it's so great. We have John and Diana, and then we have Drew, and they're so different. And so how do you relate to these different clients? And so our goal is to, how can we help students shorten that learning curve so they can be excellent financial planners? Mm-hmm. And yes, you get to see it all, the good and the bad.
Absolutely. So Hannah, could you kind of talk about your experiences with, the blog that you created, and, should everyone consider creating their own content for financial planning? Is this something common you see, new financial planners doing? I mean, what are the benefits of creating content like this?
Yep. So I think we're in this, it's such an interesting time that we're in financial planning in the world. It's so fun. So I think there's always going to be room for content, right? Like, oh my gosh, it would make me so happy if we had like hundreds and hundreds of people on TikTok making, personal finance, like content. Like, that would just be like, yes, like we need new financial planners to be making this content, educating the public, and doing all of this. Do I think everybody needs to? No. I think there's a lot of friends that I have that are working at firms that don't write for a blog. They don't need to, right? So a lot of it kind of depends on where you want to go and what you want to do. What's really interesting, like in our space, what we're finding is that it's very bell curve right now, where we have a lot, like on the large firm size, large firms are buying up large firms. Like, it's like this merger and acquisition, just craziness happening right now. And then on the other side is we have lots of people who are starting their own firms. So if you're somebody who was like, hey, I love the fact that I want to be an entrepreneur, about half of our externs, that's why they like financial planning, is a chance for a path to entrepreneurship. So yes, creating content, I mean, that is the name of the game. So for so much, and that can look very different, right? For who you are, and, who you are and how you want to show up to the world. So I think, yes, it kind of depends on what's the purpose for it. Do I think people should be writing for financial planners? I think we need a lot more people writing for financial planners. I don't think everybody's meant for that. But I know that we have tens of millions of people in this country that need good financial help, that they're going to hear Jake's voice, and it's going to resonate a lot more than hearing Hannah's voice. And so they need to be able to hear that. And so don't be shy about that. The other thing that I really like about writing content, and why I would encourage a lot of people to be writing content, especially if you're new, is it helps you develop your ideas. So even if you don't use it, just writing it out, it's going to help you sharpen your focus. It's going to help you figure out, what is it that you believe about financial planning? How do you communicate this? Because it's not easy to write a blog. It's not easy to do all this and to make it really good. And so it really it's a skill set that you develop. And so I think it's a skill set that's only going to become more and more valuable, the more we're in the world that we live in right now. Yeah. But not all employers are going to ask you for that. You don't need it for a lot or most of the jobs out there, but it's a really good skill set.
Absolutely. And from a consumer's perspective, they've helped me a ton, the personal finance blogs. And, I really never discovered blogs or podcasts or, any other content like that until I joined WMA, and we have a great Spartan journal. They post the podcast, bring people on like you, so it's a great resource. And I can bet that it's pretty challenging to be the publisher of it. So
once you get in the rhythm of it, that helps. Yeah,
absolutely.
and just the expectation. Yeah.
So Hannah, one kind of deep question for you, a little in depth. So I want you to talk a little bit about being a woman in financial advising. This seems to be a male dominant industry, and I kind of just wanted you to give some insight on, why it doesn't have to be, and, your experiences being a female advisor. And, I read a statistic, I don't know how long ago, but it showed that 23% of women hold the CFP designation, which is, an extremely low number. So, what would you say to the female undergrads? And, this is really something that we're trying to implement into WMA to get some female leadership. So could you kind of talk about your experiences with that?
Yeah, well, so first of all, I'll say that, the work that we do with clients, like, it's just so gratifying, right? It's so many things that, when they survey women in particular, that it's for everybody, right? Like, where it's men or women, like, you feel good when a client is thanking you, but there's very much this missional side of it, that women it just resonates. And so the work that we do, I think is so, I just think it's a great field for women. So when we start talking about career, we start talking about what's possible. So I have my own firm. In my office, we actually have a full nursery. So I have 2 little girls. One will be 3 next week, and the other one is 5 months old right now. And so we're able to bring them up to the office, and there's a place for them here. And so we don't use it all the time, but it's, there's a lot more firms. So if you have your own firm, or you work at the right type of firm, there's a lot of flexibility that can be brought into that. So a couple of reasons why I think, and again, these are just my hypothesis, when you get into financial planning, so much of it is get your first job, right? Just get your first job, and then you can network and you can find these different things. One of the things that's always striking to me is once you start working at a role, right? So I was in this broker dealer. They had all the resources. It was like, you go to their conferences, you hear their speakers. It's very, you only hear that avenue, if you will. And so what we know about financial planning is that it's an undeveloped profession, where there's lots of different career paths. It's not like accounting where it's very clear what each role is. There's a lot of ambiguity. There's a lot of we're still defining all these things. And so what I see is that people, especially new planners, get into a role and they think that this is what the profession has to offer. And they're realizing that this is not the flexibility that I want. I'm not treated well in my office. This is going against my core values of how they're treating and talking to their clients. There are a lot of people out there like that. And so what people say is, well, if this is financial planning, I don't want it. And I wouldn't want that job either. So I would really just encourage you is that once you get into your first job, your first couple of jobs, don't just stay isolated in that firm. And they're going to provide you the mentors. They're going to provide you the coaching. They're going to provide you the training. And that's all great, and take advantage of all that. But break out of that isolation of that firm, break out of go talk to other people in your community. This is why I'm such a believer in the FPA, and why I think it's so important, is because then you can go talk to other planners who are in different roles, and you can say, you know what, where I'm at right now isn't good, but there's other opportunities out there. And so what I would say really to anybody coming in, but especially to women, is know what's important to you, know what your values are. And if you're not seeing it at wherever your first job is, know that there are other places where that will align with those values. And so you're going to have to do the work to find out where you want to land. But it is incredibly rewarding. All the things that you guys are being promised right now in school, all the possibilities that you're seeing, that you can really help people, that this can be a true helping profession that exists. You just have to sometimes it's going to take being your 3rd or 4th job, but you have to be persistent on that. And then I promise you're going to find jobs where they're going to have a nursery in the office, or you're going to find jobs where they're going to be flexible with you, and they're going to understand the different demands of motherhood, that they're not going to be, that they're going to value your voice. You're going to have a seat at the table. And so just know that there are those roles out there. And if you're not in that role, please don't just leave. I mean, do what's best for you. I understand that, but just know that there's other places out there for you.
Absolutely. That's great advice to, not stay isolated. And that's something that I've heard from multiple people. And like, you may not like your first job, and then, the second job is the complete polar opposite of, your first one. And then your third one, you start to settle in a little bit more. So that is definitely not the first time that I've heard that. So that's great advice. And, something that people should consider, trying out different avenues of the industry for sure.
Yeah. And figuring out what fits and what doesn't. And
Absolutely.
yeah, I know that there's a whole community ready to support you in what this looks like. So if you're struggling, like join us in the FP Activate group, ask those questions there, because I promise you that you will get lots of other women or, men too, people there to support you.
Absolutely.
Because we need you guys to be successful, right? Like we need young people. We need the students to be successful in financial planning. And there's such a need. There's such a need for people to get good financial planning advice. And that's what we're here for. And we know that we can't do this without the students. And we want you guys to be successful.
Well, on behalf of the students, I appreciate that. So Hannah, unfortunately, our time is wrapping up soon. So I kind of just wanted you to, give some last pieces of advice to our listeners, if you have anything else that you'd like to tell them.
Yes, absolutely. Well, stay curious. That's always the advice that I give. There's so much to learn about financial planning. As soon as you think you know it all, there's just going to be a whole new world that'll open up and you realize how little you know. So stay curious. The people that you're like, oh, there's something I can learn from them. Yes, there is. So be asking the questions. Ask the questions, dive in deeper, really just explore this. There's so much to learn. And this is just an amazing, amazing profession. And you really like the power that I always talk about the power of financial planning, and we really have the power to impact families and frankly generations of families with their finances. And I can't think of a better career than that.
That's great, Hannah. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We all appreciate it, and I appreciate your time. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Jake. I appreciate it and love the work that you guys are doing as well.
Thank you very much. All right.
If you like what you just heard, please like, comment, and share. This is Lance Mullen, producer of the MSU WMA podcast. MSU WMA, or Michigan State University Wealth Management Association, is a student organization part of the Eli Broad College of Business, located in East Lansing, Michigan. Our mission is to inspire and educate the next generation of financial planners. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed, please check out our channel on all platforms such as Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and check out our social media at MSU WMA and msuwma.com.